Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today we're going to talk about some of my favorite unusual baits to use on Texas rigs. You know, for most part, most people would say that any sort of creature bait or any sort of craw, plastic worm, those are going to be your traditional baits to use on a Texas rig. But one thing we know about a Texas rig is that it's an extremely versatile presentation. It's a versatile way to rig your baits, and you can do it to pretty much any plastic bait that's on the market. So that's one of the cool things about it. And because of that, I feel like we often see some baits, some entire bait categories actually go overlooked from being used as a Texas rig. So I want to go over some of my favorite baits to use on a Texas rig that are more non-traditional, you know, than your basic craw or beaver or creature style baits, because these baits work great on a Texas rig as well. So I'm going to talk about some of the presentations and the places where I like to do it.
Can't go? Do this to clear out stuck poop fast. Fiber helps you poop, right? Nope. According to New York's top
Before I do get into it, I want to remind you guys that if you're looking for a little bit of help on your local lakes, check out the lake breakdowns that I've done through fishthemoment.com. I'll put the link for that in the video description. I provide 40 waypoints with a bunch of different techniques and patterns for a specific season of the year. Really good way to help you break down your local lakes or a lake you might be going to for the first time. So check those out. Also, if you want to support the channel, guys, please use my Tackle Warehouse affiliate link when making your purchases for tackle at Tackle Warehouse. That's very much appreciated, and all of the money that comes from that goes right back into making content for you guys out there. So hopefully we all can learn to catch a few more fish. And in this case, I want to talk about Texas rigs. I love a Texas rig. It's one of my favorite ways to fish. I think it's one of the best ways to present a bait in a manner that's very natural, and at the same time, it's one of the most weedless presentations out there because of the fact that your hook has a non-exposed point, meaning you can work it through grass, you can work it through wood, you can work it through rock. You can pretty much throw a Texas rig almost anywhere, and that's where a lot of us need to start thinking out of the box, because most people would consider a Texas rig as a weedless flipping or casting presentation. But there's a lot of times when you don't necessarily have to use a traditional bait. You can use something like these, and I've been having a lot of success lately by doing this in non-traditional places. So let's break down one of the first baits that I really like to use, and this is something that's a little bit new. It has been around for a little bit of time, but it really doesn't get much recognition, but it's something that I've had a lot of luck with. It's this Sankeiko T-Sand by Norries. This is what this bait looks like. So it's basically a worm that allows you to fish a wacky rig style worm, but they've got an extra appendage coming off where you can hook your Texas rigged hook to make it a Texas rig bait. So you can fish a wacky rig in a Texas rig manner. This is something I've been messing with for quite a bit of time now and having a lot of really good luck. The one cool thing with this bait is it's got an extra appendage down towards the tail, so you actually get some vibration out of this portion of the bait. So when you pull it, you get some vibration. A little bit different, but it's something that's pretty cool, because one of the issues I've had, if you watch my channel on a regular basis, is I'm still battling finding the right hook, a right weedless wacky rig hook. I've gone through pretty much everyone that's on the market. There are some that are good, there are some that are not good, and honestly, I just haven't found one though that I feel like solves the whole issue of a weedless wacky rig. And that's pretty much where this whole idea came from. When I saw this, I decided I wanted to try it because I love a wacky rig presentation and I love the idea of a weedless one. And this is kind of the best option I've had. You know, I really feel like this is truly the most weedless one that does not get caught up, but also gives you good hook penetration, because that's the issue I have with the weedless wacky rigged hooks right now. Either the weed guard is so soft it's basically not weedless, or it's so stiff it really impedes your hookup percentage. And this is one of the things I've been going to lately that's solving that whole idea. So it's a Texas rig wacky rig is really what it comes down to. I would highly recommend it. It's the Norries. I've been using Norries baits for a long time. The Pad 2 is one that I love for smallmouth. I think I've done videos on it in the past, but the nori stuff can be kind of difficult to get. I do believe you can get it at Tackle Warehouse now. I'll put the link for that if in fact you can. But the Senkeiko T-Sand is definitely a bait that I've been catching a lot of fish on recently, and it's an unusual Texas rig bait. Okay, so let's talk about another one. Let's talk about a paddle tail swim bait like this 3.3 Keitech Fat Impact swim bait. Guys, I gotta tell you, one of the best ways to get a swim bait in a weedless presentation is to fish it as a Texas rig. I'll put a I'll put a bullet weight on it depending on whatever the size or the depth or the weed cover that I'm fishing. But if I want to get this down in some weeds, I'll put it on a 1/4 ounce or 1/2 ounce tungsten bullet weight in front of it. I'll rig it in a Texas rig manner, and I can fish this through most grass, most wood in a very, very weedless presentation. I like it a lot better than I like belly weighted swim bait hooks. It's also something I like to do when I'm fishing or guiding younger anglers or inexperienced anglers. I feel like you get a better hookup percentage with a Texas rig swim bait versus a belly weighted swim bait, and it's much more weedless, because a lot of times with a belly weighted swim bait hook, that lead that's on the shank will actually catch grass or catch some of the weeds. With a bullet weight on a traditional Texas rig, this will come through the grass much better, and it's something you very rarely see people doing, is fishing a swim bait like that Keitech through grass and through wood using a Texas rig. A lot of times they're using specialized hooks, which in my opinion are not working as well as just a straight Texas rig. Another one I've been loving lately, guys, this is the MaxScent Little General. I've been having a ton of success using this on a Texas rig. Now, it's made for Ned rigs, but I can tell you the small 3-inch size Ned rig baits work great on Texas rigs too. And really what it does is it allows you to present a Ned rig in areas where you probably wouldn't normally throw a Ned rig, you know, in a fallen laydown tree, or skipping it into docks, or fishing it down into holes in the grass. It's really a good presentation that's going very, very underappreciated because of the fact that people just assume that a Little General is a Ned rig and should only be thrown on a jig head. The reality is these are catching a lot of fish on Texas rigs. It's one of my favorite ways to fish them of late. I've actually going to a lot of, if I'm fishing any sort of cover and I want to throw a Ned rig, I'm actually throwing a lot of them on a Texas rig or a hover rig, which has a weed guard on it, versus a traditional Ned rig style head. Another one that doesn't get a whole lot of love when it comes to fishing Texas rigs is just a fluke style bait, a jerk shad style bait. This one's got a curved tail, which I do not like. It's one thing I don't like about the zoom baits. A lot of times, not zoom baits, but the flukes, it's really important that the tails are right.
Brown rice. This is why you feel tired after eating brown rice.
Rice is really bad for...
And in this case, this one's got a bent tail from being in the bag too long. Not necessarily a zoom issue, it's just a thing where I like to have my tail straight. And I've got tips for how to get that undone. We can do another video on that in the future. But a fluke style bait on a Texas rig is another great way to fish them. And a lot of times I like to do this when I'm fishing, when I want to fish a fluke at a deeper level. I'll unpeg a Texas rig weight, a bullet weight in front of it, and I'll fish these down deeper. And you can fish it in the traditional kind of jerk shad style, but you can get it down deeper and you get a lot of separation from your weight. Your bait still gets a lot of movement, and it's a really good way to get a soft jerk bait down into cover and fish it weedless. I would highly recommend giving it a try. It's another thing that seems to work wonders, and it's something you very rarely hear people do, but you can fish flukes on Texas rigs. The last one I want to talk about is another one that's got a really good cult following. It's a bait that I've used for years, and it's one, again, that I really like to flip and pitch on a Texas rig, but is a non-traditional Texas rig bait. and that's an Ika by Yamamoto. The Ika is another really good bait that is often used in different presentations, not on Texas rigs, but this bait works really well as a Texas rig bait. And one of the reasons for that is it's basically a tube jig, but it's a solid body. And I like the fact that it's a solid body because sometimes that holds up better on a Texas rig than a normal tube jig or tube bait, which has the hollow belly. You know, a lot of times because it's an open cavity, it's not quite as weedless, it doesn't hold up as good on the hook, and the Ika kind of solves that issue. This is a really good bait to put on a Texas rig and to flip around into cover. You can even punch mats with this. It's a very good bait that you very rarely hear people talking about being used on a Texas rig. So guys, don't think you have to throw a traditional craw or beaver or worm on a Texas rig. Most plastic baits you can fish on a Texas rig and give that different style of bait a weedless presentation that oftentimes you weren't able to get into those same areas. So definitely try it. Think outside of the box sometimes, and you might find that some of these plastic baits work really well on a Texas rig. These are some of the ones I like. I advise you to try some of these. If you normally catch them good on a fluke in open water, you might want to fish that same lake with a fluke on a Texas rig in the areas you wouldn't normally throw a fluke, and you can do that with pretty much all these baits. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, we'll have a new video coming out tomorrow for you.